she discovered an amazing secret. Her stranger was a millionaire boss who fell in love with her. Claire poured hot coffee into a customer's cup, energy coursing through her as the Heartland diner buzzed around her. The diner smelled like fresh-baked apple pie mixed with sizzling bacon. It was her little sanctuary in Maplewood, a small Midwestern town where everyone knew each other and the struggles of life felt just a little lighter when shared over an all-day breakfast. As a 28-year-old waitress, Claire mastered the art of balancing work with caring for her aging mother, who fought bravely against cancer. Each moment she spent at the diner lifted her heart, reminding her of her dream, to own a bakery, filling lives with warm, sweet delights. That autumn day, the annual Harvest Festival transformed the town square into a riot of pumpkins and booths. Children's laughter echoed as families competed in candy corn counting competitions. Claire, with cheeks flushed and exhilaration bubbling inside her, was about to find an unexpected spark in her life. That's when she met Jack, a seemingly ordinary man with an easy smile and an infectious laugh. He stopped by the diner after a long drive, drawn in by the smell of freshly made pie. Over the next few days, he became a regular. "Another slice of your famous apple pie, please." He smiled, his eyes twinkling with appreciation as Claire served him. They laughed over quirky jokes and shared stories of childhood dreams. She found herself drawn to him in ways she hadn't felt in years, the warmth of his presence weaving into her daily routine. The more they shared breathe of laughter, crumbs of pie, the deeper she fell. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the festival thrived around them, Claire felt lighter than air. They spent their evenings carving pumpkins and mingling with neighbors. But one fateful day, Claire stood just outside the town hall, her heart pounding as she overheard a conversation. Jack was a millionaire CEO, here on business, not just an ordinary man. Waves of disbelief crashed into her heart. Feelings of insecurity flooded through. How could she, a waitress with dreams tethered to her town, ever be worthy of love from a man draped in wealth and success? An intense confrontation awaited. Tensions simmered during a town meeting when neighbors debated the arrival of new businesses. Standing there, her heart raced. She couldn't just let it go. Love didn't recognize wealth nor class. Her voice broke through the clamor, passionately advocating for the beauty of resilience and shared dreams. Can't we see that love isn't bound by the money in someone's pocket? She stood vulnerable but bold, and as voices began to rise in confusion and debate, Claire knew her fight was far greater than for just her heart. In that moment, she realized their love could challenge the false assumptions surrounding their lives. But even as her courage drew stares and murmurs from the crowd, doubt crept in. Would her town stand with her or risk closing ranks against outsiders? And what would Jack choose when it was time to leave? The current of uncertainty swept her into unknown waters. Would love really conquer these divides? As she gazed toward the entrance, the question hung like autumn leaves in the air, waiting to be answered. The buzz of conversations filled the room, each voice a note in the symphony of community life. Claire's heart thundered against her rib cage as she stole a glance at Jack. He stood still, the chaos swirling around them seemingly oblivious to his presence. The soft light from the old chandelier above cast a glow on his handsome features, making it hard for her to understand how a man like him could choose to be here, in a small diner, imbibing homemade apple pie instead of indulging in high-end restaurants far away. "Claire?" His voice broke through the din, pulling her from the storm of her thoughts. She could see concern etched on his face. It made her wish she could rush into his arms, where the world seemed right and safe. "Are you all right?" he continued, his eyes searching hers for an answer masked behind uncertainty. I just need a moment," she managed, her heart a whirlwind of emotions. "Did you know about the meeting tonight?" Claire asked, her voice steadying as she found her footing. "Yeah, I heard. I wanted to understand what your town is facing." His sincerity struck her like a wave, washing away some of her apprehension. Hardly anyone in town knew the truth about Jack yet, and that fact loomed over her like a ticking clock. She glanced back to the gathering, where neighbors were still arguing fiercely over their shared future. "They won't accept you. You know," Claire warned, her voice barely a whisper. "You're just different. Claire, nothing about you is different to me." His words fell like soft feathers, landing gently yet weighted with truth. "I come here because of you." Her breath hitched. Here was a man whose world should be racing past a small-town waitress, yet he was standing right there, choosing her. It was everything she'd ever dreamed of, and everything that terrified her. "So what happens now?" She confronted the reality of their connection head-on. "You go back to your lavish lifestyle, and I stay here, where everything is the same." Jack stepped closer, the space between them shrinking until she could feel the heat radiating off his body. "You say that like the future is already written. It's not, Claire. We could forge a new one together." His words rang heavy, each syllable a promise hanging in the air. Could she dare to envision a life beyond Maplewood? A life filled with love, hope, and maybe even a bakery of her own someday? But doubt gnawed at her mind, the voices of her neighbors echoing against her heart. "What will they say, Jack? What if they don't accept this?" She motioned between them, engulfed in both fear and longing. "I believe love can break down walls," Jack said softly, his gaze steady and unwavering. "If you're willing to fight for it, to fight for us." Claire felt the warmth of his conviction seep into her skin, illuminating shadows of insecurities she buried deep. But could she bear the weight of what their love could mean, risking not just her heart, but also her family's fragile stability? As she marinated in the moment, Claire knew that decisions loomed ahead, like the pumpkins brightening the square outside. Perhaps love could shine through darkness. Yet, the fear of judgment from her community, mixed with the thrill of something new, made it almost impossible to breathe. "What if you choose your life, Jack?" The question slipped out, defying her hope. He gripped her hand, the pulse of determination in his touch, setting her heart racing. "Let us find out together." Just as Claire opened her mouth to respond, the doors of the town hall burst open. Mr. Bennett, the town's grumpy mayor, stormed in, his face weathered with urgency. "We need to talk now." There's a situation. The whole room turned, all conversations muted, leaving Claire on the edge of revelation with Jack. What could this mean for both their lives? Would love survive the storm about to unleash? Mr. Bennett's voice reverberated through the room, pulling Claire from her tangled thoughts. The urgency in his tone was like the crack of thunder, silencing all chatter as the townsfolk turned their attention to him. Claire felt Jack's fingers tighten around hers, grounding her amidst the growing unrest. "What is going on?" someone shouted from the back. It was Mrs. Jenkins, her voice edged with concern. "Something's come up about the town's funding." Mr. Bennett's eyes scanned the crowd, his expression serious. "We need to address the rumors before they spiral out of control." Claire exchanged a glance with Jack, confusion brimming in her chest. Rumors? Wasn't that what they were trying to stifle? The room was charged with a palpable tension as Mr. Bennett took a breath, seeming to savor the dramatic pause. "There's been talk that Maplewood is on the chopping block for state funding," he continued, watching the different faces around him. Fear spread through the crowd like a whisper. "If we don't act fast, we could lose our resources, our community center, even the school." Gasps echoed, and the collective worry began to boil over. Claire felt the air grow thick, a heaviness that pressed against her chest. She had thought the worst of her troubles was Jack's presence here, but this was something far graver. "Without funding, we can't keep the town running as it is," Mr. Bennett added, his voice cracking slightly. "We need plans to present tomorrow." Claire's mind raced. How could she possibly focus on the meeting and the uncertainty of Jack's role in all of this? She turned towards him for support, but his gaze was fixed on the mayor, his jaw set. She realized, in that moment, Jack had his own battles to face. "We have to do something," Claire murmured, her voice barely a whisper against the wave of rising panic. "I'm with you," Jack replied, his tone firm. "Whatever it takes, we'll fight for this town and for us." But how could they forge a path through the chaos? Claire's heart ached as she thought of her neighbors who only saw Jack as the outsider. The walls between even the simplest relationships seemed insurmountable now. Mrs. Jenkins stood up, rallying the crowd. "We've fought for our town before. We can do it again. If we work together, There's no reason we can't save Maplewood. Cheers erupted, filling the room with energy. Claire felt her spirits lift slightly, yet uncertainty still gripped her heart. This was not just about Jack. It was about the roots she had planted here, the family she loved, and a community that now seemed so fragile. Okay, everyone, Mr. Bennet said, raising his hands to calm the crowd. Let us organize teams. We need to address this situation head-on. Claire, you know the layout of our finances better than anyone. Can we count on you? The request felt heavy, as if he had handed her the weight of responsibility. She nodded, steeling herself. Yes, I'll help. We all can. It was what she needed to do, for the town, for her dreams, and maybe for Jack. But what about? She hesitated, glancing toward Jack. The breath she drew in felt sharp, but she pushed onward. Jack could support us. Letting the words hang in the air was daunting, and she wondered how the townsfolk would react when they learned his true identity. This is not the time for differences, Jack interjected smoothly, a glimmer of determination in his eyes. If you'll allow me to help, I know some people connections that might assist the town. Claire held her breath, the crowd's approval mixed with skepticism palpable. Would they accept this man a stranger? The weight of her secret felt heavier than ever, especially now that his involvement could influence their precarious lives. But before she could process any further, Mr. Bennet nodded, accepting Jack into their fold as if shattering the barriers of community distrust might be possible after all. As plans began to take shape. Claire glanced at Jack. His resolve ignited her hope. Yet, with every flicker of possibility, she felt the encroaching dread of revealing who he really was. Would she choose to trust him with her heart and risk everything if the truth emerged? The thought clung to her like a shadow. Suddenly, the doors burst open again. A familiar figure rushed in. Janice, her old friend, her face pale and frantic. I just heard something about Jack, she exclaimed, breathless. Claire's heart sank. What could Janice possibly have uncovered? The questions hung in the air, heavy with impending revelation as Jack turned to face the new arrival. Everything was about to change, and she wasn't sure if she was ready. Janice rushed forward, her eyes darting from Claire to Jack. Claire, you need to hear this, she gasped, her voice laced with urgency. The room quieted again as everyone focused on the increasingly charged atmosphere. Jack's brow furrowed, a tide of apprehension washing over his face. Claire felt her pulse quicken as she stepped toward Janice, desperate for answers. What did you hear? Janice hesitated, glancing over her shoulder as if expecting someone to swoop in and stop her. I overheard a conversation at the cafe. People are saying Jack might not just be a regular guy. They think he is connected to a big corporation, something about funding or investments in town projects. Gasps erupted from the crowd, and Claire's heart plummeted. She turned to Jack, searching deep in his eyes for the truth. Would he deny it, or was there something brewing beneath the surface? Threats to their small town loomed like storm clouds, and now an unexpected rumor was peeling away at their fragile alliance. Jack, is any of that true? Claire's voice trembled, the lump in her throat tightening like a vice. I can explain, he stammered, his eyes flicking to the wary crowd surrounding them. The tension was palpable, a coiled spring ready to snap at any moment. Mrs. Jenkins stepped forward, arms crossed. Mr. Jack, if you have influence over these funds, we deserve to know. The accusation in her voice struck like an arrow, piercing through the uncertainty that buzzed like static in the air. Jack ran a hand through his hair, vulnerabilities flashing across his face. I didn't want you to find out like this. I came to help, not to create division. A murmur swept through the crowd. Claire felt pity for him, but guilt clawed at her insides. Did she know this man as well as she thought? What if he was using her affection against her? Jack, if you really want to help, you need to be honest about who you are, she said, her voice steady. Or else, we can't trust you. He took a step closer, desperation mingled with sincerity in his gaze. I promise, Claire, I'm not here to take anything from your town. I came to make a difference. A voice rose from the back of the room. And why should we believe you? Everyone knows someone like you always has an agenda. Claire felt the accusation in her bones. Her heart ached not just for Jack, but for everyone in the room. We can't lose sight of what matters. This is about us working together to save Maplewood. Right now, we need each other. The crowd remained skeptical, divided between trust and doubt. Janice leaned closer to Claire. Can we take that risk? What if he is here for his own gain? Worry twisted in Claire's gut. She could feel the weight of expectations on her shoulders, the anxious stares whispering doubt. The truth of Jack's identity hung like a dark cloud above them. But even in that heaviness, Claire's heart cried out for clarity. Jack, what's your plan? If there's a way for you to help, you need to share. Everyone deserves the chance to shine, Claire urged, searching his eyes for the man she had let in. He took a deep breath, his confidence flickering like a candle in the wind. I might know a way to secure emergency funding, but it's risky. We have to approach the state officials directly, and time is not on our side. Claire's chest swelled with hope, even as fear coiled in the back of her mind. Then we do it. We get everyone on board. But before she could rally the crowd, Janice blurted out, and what if everything falls apart? What if he's just playing us for fools? Sudden quiet gripped the room. Claire could feel the heavy gaze of every soul resting on Jack, the uncertain tension stinging the air. Claire, I'm not your enemy, Jack said softly, pleading with her to understand. I'm here for you, for this town. Just give me a chance. Her heart raced, caught between her loyalty to her neighbors and her growing connection with Jack. Could she trust him with everything at risk? What other secrets lay hidden in the shadows? As murmurs filled the air once more, Claire stood at a crossroads, weighing the future of her town and the man she allowed into her heart. Would she risk it all for one flickering spark of hope, or was this the moment everything crumbled? With all eyes on her, Claire took a deep breath. She had to decide quickly. Tomorrow was growing closer, and so was the truth. Okay, let us vote. Do we entrust Jack with guiding us through this storm? The question lingered, heavy and unresolved, as the faces in the room turned toward one another. Would they unite for their town, or let fear fracture everything? Time was ticking, and so much rested on a choice that would alter their lives forever. Claire's heart thudded in her chest like a drum. She scanned the crowded room, the faces before her reflecting a torrent of emotions: fear, uncertainty, hope. She had put the decision in their hands, but the burden felt heavy on her shoulders. Jack stood behind her, a figure both alien and yet so familiar. Okay, let us vote, she repeated, trying to bolster her own confidence. We need to know if we can trust Jack to steer us in the right direction. A few people whispered among themselves, brows furrowed and eyes darting around. Claire could sense the tension pulsating through the air. Each moment stretched, and she could almost hear her own heartbeat echoing. Janice's fingers nervously drummed against the edge of the table. I say we give him a chance, called out Mike, a local shop owner, though his voice sounded more like a question than a statement. If Jack can really help us get the funding, we can't just let rumors tear us apart. Don't be fooled. This isn't a game, Mike. Mrs. Jenkins shot back. The defensive tone in her voice sliced through the growing murmur of agreement. He could ruin us all. Claire felt her throat tighten as she held Jack's gaze. His eyes, filled with equal parts determination and fear, urged her to take action. What she saw there electrified her with an indescribable mixture of worry and trust. Was he truly the man he claimed to be, or was this all an elaborate ruse? The tension escalated as her neighbors turned to each other, whispering, casting furtive glances at Jack. Each of them seemed to hold a piece of the puzzle, but none were brave enough to take a step forward. Claire inhaled deeply, her breath shaking as it escaped her lips. Listen, I know it's hard to trust him. I get that, she pleaded, her palms raised in a calming gesture. But we need to focus on the future of Maplewood. If we turn on each other, that's when we truly lose. Jack wants to help. Let us at least hear him out. A wave of murmurs shifted across the crowd, hardening expressions softened by a flicker of understanding. Finally, Claire turned to Jack, her eyes pleading. Tell them what you have in mind, Jack. Don't hold back. He took a step closer, visibly gathering his thoughts. I know a few key players in the state government. If we can present a solid plan, we might secure emergency funding to rejuvenate Maplewood. But I need your support, your ideas. We need to show them we're ready to fight for our town. What kind of plan? Janice interjected, skepticism tangled with curiosity. Her arms were still crossed, but the fierceness in her posture dimmed slightly. Jack's expression became intense. We need to demonstrate a unified front. If we show them that we're all in this together as businesses, families, The community they want to be able to ignore the life we've built here. This isn't just about money. It's about saving our way of life. A nod of agreement flickered among the crowd. Claire felt a swell of determination rise within her. Maybe, just maybe, there was still a chance. They could harness the spirit of Maplewood. Then let us do it, she shouted, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. Let us band together, not just for ourselves, but for the future. We can't let fear dictate our destiny. Applause erupted, hesitant at first, but quickly gaining momentum as people found their voices. Jack's face softened into a smile, relief swirling in his eyes. But just as hope ignited in Claire's heart, the door swung open, and the room went still. An unfamiliar figure stood outlined in the doorway, a shadow against the light, their presence a stark reminder that more challenges lay ahead. Is this the meeting regarding the funding for the town? The stranger asked, voice dripping with authority, causing every heartbeat to falter. Claire glanced at Jack, her breath hitching. Who was this person, and how did they know about their plans? As the weight of uncertainty sunk back into the room, Claire braced herself. This was far from over. What did the newcomer want, and would they threaten the fragile unity that had just begun to bloom? The silence felt suffocating, wrapping around Claire like a heavy blanket. The stranger stood confidently, hands clasped casually in front of them, surveying the room like a hawk eyeing its prey. Claire could see her neighbors' expressions shift from anticipation to unease, gripping the edges of their chairs as if bracing for an unexpected storm. Who are you? Claire finally managed to ask, her voice steady despite the tremor in her heart. I'm Parker Green, and I've been hearing interesting things about this town, the stranger replied, their tone smooth and calculated. I have resources that could save Maplewood, but only if it's worthy of investment. Whispers rippled through the crowd. Claire's pulse quickened, both intrigued and wary. Jack glanced at her, uncertainty reflected in his eyes, but Claire felt something else, a flicker of hope. Are you here to help? Mike asked, leaning forward. We need aid for our town. Parker's lips curled into a half-smile. Help? Yes, in exchange for building something greater, something more profitable. But how committed are you really? How far are you willing to go? His boldness sent a wave of discomfort through the group. Claire could feel the tension mounting. We're committed to our town, she replied, finding her own voice rising above the unease. But we want to compromise our values for profit. Parker raised an eyebrow, clearly impressed. I like your spirit, but if you want my help, you'll need to think bigger. Let us discuss a plan that not only saves Maplewood, but transforms it. Transform it how? Janice questioned, her skepticism creeping back. We don't want to erase what makes us who we are. We just want to survive. Survival alone isn't enough, Parker said, stepping further into the room. He exuded confidence. Imagine a development that brings interest not just from state funding, but from private investors too. Homes, shops, parks drawing new people, creating jobs. That is transformation. Claire exchanged glances with Jack, her heart racing. The idea was thrilling but terrifying. And what's in it for you? She asked, narrowing her eyes. I want a stake in your future, Parker replied, undeterred. But only if you're ready to truly collaborate. I'm not here for empty promises or half-hearted attempts. As Claire felt the weight of his words, she realized this was a pivotal moment. They could accept Parker's gamble on their future or risk everything by sticking to their past ways. But the dread and uncertainty gnawed at her. What if they lost the very essence of Maplewood in the process? Parker, we can't just change everything, Claire said, trying to mask her apprehension. We need to find a balance that honors what's already here. Parker's eyes bored into hers, and there was something almost magnetic in the intensity of his gaze. You want to save your town without change? That's a losing strategy, he countered, his voice firm. Claire felt overwhelmed as a sense of urgency flickered within her. This conversation would set the course for not just her community, but for the future they all shared. We need time to think, she finally managed, her mouth feeling dry. Time is luxury. If you're not decisive, others will be, Parker replied, stepping back. Claire watched as he turned towards the door, the frame casting a shadow over his retreating figure. I'll give you 3 days. Decide quickly how much you value your town. As the door clicked shut behind him, Claire turned to her neighbors, still buzzing with conflicting emotions. Voices tangled with uncertainty and hope. Would they truly allow change, or rally together to preserve what they loved? Jack placed a hand on her shoulder, drawing her focus back to him. What do we do now? Claire's mind raced. A single decision could reshape everything, but she felt the weight of it pressing down. How could they find a way to save Maplewood without becoming something it wasn't? As she gazed at the faces around her, the bond of community flickered in the air. But in the recesses of her mind, one question lingered: was Parker truly there to help, or did he have his own hidden agenda? Before Claire could voice her thoughts, the door opened once more, and a familiar figure stepped inside. Her heart sank. This time, it was someone she never expected to see. "Claire, I need to talk to you," they exclaimed, urgency evident in their eyes. The room erupted into chaos again, the trajectory of their plans swirling into uncertainty. Claire felt her resolve shaken. Just when she thought the path forward was clear, another twist awaited. Would she be able to navigate through this storm? Claire's heart sank as she turned to face the newcomer, her childhood friend, Lisa, who had left Maplewood years ago in search of a bigger life. "What is going on, Lisa?" Claire asked, trying to mask her apprehension. The eyes of her neighbors were still glued to Parker's empty spot, whispers thick in the air. "We need to talk," Lisa insisted, brushing past the crowd as she made her way directly to Claire. The tension was palpable, yet the urgency in Lisa's voice drew Claire in. "It's about Maplewood and Parker." "What do you know?" Claire felt a wave of confusion wash over her. Lisa glanced back at the group and lowered her voice. "He is not who he says he is. I've seen his projects before. He swoops in, promises big change, then takes over everything." The room quieted, every face turning to Claire and Lisa. This was a distraction they hadn't anticipated amidst the storm swirling around Parker. Claire felt sweat trickling down her back. "But we need help. We can't just let this town wither away. Listen to me." Lisa's voice shook slightly as she held Claire's gaze. "There's more at stake than you realize. I spent years in real estate, and I've watched towns like ours crumble under promises like his. But what if he is sincere?" Claire shot back, desperation creeping into her tone. "What if this is our last chance? It may be our last chance, but not like this. We can't sacrifice what makes Maplewood special. I know how to fight back and preserve what we have, but you have to trust me." Just then, a voice erupted from the back of the room. "If he is so bad, then why did he even come here in the first place?" It was Mike, tension etched across his face. "Don't you think it's a risk to turn him away?" Claire felt a wave of disagreements crashing around her. Each person had a different perspective, and suddenly the weight of Parker's ultimatum settled heavier on her shoulders. The room began buzzing with opinions. "You need to decide quickly. Parker gave us 3 days. But what about our town's legacy?" Amid the rising chaos, Claire's heart raced as she desperately tried to steer the conversation back to the heart of the matter. "Stop. We can't just react, we need a plan." As she spoke, a thought flickered through her mind like a spark. What if we find out more about Parker? If Lisa's right, we could expose him. But if not, I can help, Lisa interjected, her voice firm with determination. "I have some contacts from my time in the city, people who crossed paths with Parker before. We can get information." A silence descended upon the room, the tension momentarily broken by the hope Lisa offered. "But we need to act fast. If you trust me, we can put together a strategy before time runs out." Claire took a deep breath, looking around at the faces of her neighbors, some nodding with cautious optimism. They needed to unite, not just against Parker, but for each other and for Maplewood. "Let us do it then. Let us dig deeper and find out who he really is." As the crowd began to regroup and discuss next steps, Claire felt a glimmer of determination rise within her. They might be facing the unknown, but she wasn't ready to give up on her home. Before she could let herself feel too hopeful, the door swung open again. This time, it was Parker, his expression inscrutable. "You've had your time. I hope you're ready to discuss your decision, because the clock is ticking." Claire's stomach tightened as she prepared for another confrontation. What if their investigative efforts only stirred the pot further? Would they be able to stand firm against the encroaching change Parker promised? With the looming threat of Parker's return, Claire felt the gravity of their situation settle in her chest. Time was quickly running out, and the stakes had never been higher. Would she be able to pull her community together, or would Maplewood fall under the weight of a secret that could shatter their dreams? The air crackled with tension as Parker stepped into the room, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of challenge and anticipation. The crowd shifted, restless and unsure, their whispers rapidly fading into awkward silence. Claire's heart raced faster than ever. This was it. The moment she had dreaded and, somehow, anticipated. "What is your decision?" Parker asked, his voice low and confident. He swept his gaze around the room, assessing the faces, measuring the uncertainty that hung like heavy fog. Claire felt the weight of her neighbor's eyes, their hopes and fears resting on her fragile shoulders. "We need more time," Claire blurted, battling the urge to crumble under Parker's scrutiny. "We just need to understand what you're really planning for Maplewood." Parker's lips curled slightly, almost mocking. "Understanding? You think this is about understanding? It's about opportunity, Claire. You either take it or watch it slip away." "Opportunities can be traps," Lisa snapped, stepping forward. "And we're not willing to trade our home for your vague promises." The room buzzed again with a mix of anxious murmurs and supportive nods in Lisa's direction. Claire felt courage building in her chest, but doubts lingered like shadows at the edges of her mind. Parker shifted his focus to Lisa, a flicker of annoyance crossing his face. "And you believe that the stagnation will save you? This town needs growth, and I'm here to bring it." "Growth that costs more than it's worth," Lisa shot back. "What is the point of growth if it erases the soul of Maplewood?" "Enough of this," Claire interjected, her voice cutting through the tension. "We need to decide what we want, not what Parker thinks we should want. We have 3 days, and in that time, we will figure it out, together." The room fell silent, the gathered crowd taking in her words. Claire could sense the hesitation in the air, but she also saw the spark of determination igniting within them. She turned to Parker. "Give us time to investigate, to gather information. You said you had a vision. Share it. Let us see if it truly aligns with what Maplewood needs." Parker narrowed his eyes, his demeanor shifting. "You're pushing your luck, Claire. But fine. I'll give you the time you need, but know this failure to agree will come with consequences." With that, he turned, throwing the door open as he exited. The tension didn't immediately dissipate. Fear and uncertainty lingered. But Claire, looking back at her neighbors, saw fiery determination reflected in their eyes. "We have to act quickly," Lisa said, sparking the discussion anew. "I'll make calls to my contacts right away. We need to gather facts, evidence, anything to support our case." As they started breaking off into smaller groups, Claire felt the pulse of urgency. With every moment ticking away, every decision seeming more intricate, she realized they were no longer just fighting Parker, they were fighting for Maplewood's very essence. But even as a flicker of hope ignited among them, another thought nagged at the back of Claire's mind. What if, in searching for the truth about Parker, they stumbled upon secrets that changed everything? The last image of Parker's face burned deep in her memory. Was he as ruthless as Lisa claimed, or was there something deeper beneath that confident exterior? Just then, Claire's phone buzzed in her pocket. Pulling it out, her heart plummeted. A message flashed on the screen. "We need to talk. I know something important about Parker." What did this mean? What new revelations awaited? Desire and dread twisted in her gut. Would this new twist bring them closer to the truth or further complicate their fight? With determination set, Claire readied herself to find out, the stakes bigger than she could ever have imagined. Claire stood on the edge of uncertainty, the words from the message echoing in her mind. 100 questions filled her head. Who sent this? What could be so crucial that it needed a meeting? She felt a nervous knot form in her stomach. Whatever it was, it couldn't be good news. "Claire?" Lisa's voice brought her back, breaking her reverie. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." "Yeah, I just got a text." Claire held up the phone, her finger hovering over the screen, reluctant to reveal the contents. "It says someone knows something important about Parker." Lisa's eyebrows knitted together, curiosity sparking in her eyes. "Could be a lead. We need all the information we can get." "Who is it from?" "I'm not sure," Claire admitted, biting her lip. "It doesn't say." "Let us not waste any time, then. Meet them, Claire. Find out what they know," Lisa urged, her determination palpable. Claire hesitated. She could feel Parker's lingering threat hanging in the air. But the flicker of hope for answers pushed her forward. "Okay, I'll go. But I need someone with me." "Where are you meeting them?" Lisa asked, jotting down notes on a greasy napkin from a nearby table. "Down at the old diner." It's quiet. They might not want to be seen. Then I'll come with you. Let us grab a few others, too, Lisa suggested quickly. As they made plans, Claire felt an unexpected rush of confidence. While the stakes were high, she also realized they weren't alone in this fight. The others, too, were rallying and preparing to defend what they loved. If Parker was hiding something, perhaps there was a way to bring it to light. A half-hour later, Claire, Lisa, and a couple of neighbors, including Tom, a local mechanic, arrived at the diner. The neon sign buzzed softly as they stepped inside, the scent of greasy fries wafting through the air. Claire's palms were sweaty as they took a booth in the corner, eyes scanning the room. "Do you think this person will actually show?" she asked, anxiety creeping in. "They will," Lisa declared firmly. "People value information, especially if they want to protect their own." As they waited, Claire felt the weight of her phone in her pocket, a constant reminder of the uncertainty they were wading into. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her racing heart. Suddenly, the door swung open with a brisk jingle. A figure stepped in, their silhouette framed by the harsh light outside. Claire felt a jolt of recognition. It was Nate, one of Maplewood's more mysterious residents, someone who kept to himself. He hesitated upon seeing them, then made his way over. "Hey," he said, voice low. "Thanks for coming." Claire leaned in, excitement buzzing along her spine. "You said you know something about Parker?" Nate nodded, sliding into the booth beside Claire. He looked around as if weighing his words carefully. "Yeah, I've got some information that could change the game. But it's risky." The tension thickened, the air heavy with anticipation. "We're ready for the risks," Claire insisted. Nate leaned closer. "Parker isn't just some businessman. He has ties to people you wouldn't believe." As he spoke, Claire's eyes widened. Her mind raced. Could this be the missing piece they needed? But before she could fully grasp what he was implying, the door swung open again, and Claire's heart sank. Parker walked in, a commanding presence that seemed to freeze time. The way he scanned the room, spotting them in the booth, sent a cold shiver down Claire's spine. "Looks like the meeting just got more interesting," Lisa muttered under her breath. Claire's mind raced. What would she do now? Should they confront him? Or would it be smarter to wait and see what Nate had to reveal? The stakes were rising higher than ever. Would they uncover the truth in time, or would Parker's shadow snuff out their chance? Claire's pulse quickened as she braced for confrontation. What secrets surrounded Parker that could change everything? The answer hung just out of reach, one breath away. Claire felt the tension thrum in the air as Parker's confident stride carried him towards their booth. Her heart raced, the flutter of fear and determination swirling in her chest. She exchanged glances with Lisa and Nate. Should they remain quiet or stand strong in the truth they were seeking? The decision hung heavy above them. "Good to see you all together," Parker remarked, his voice smooth as silk, yet laced with an undertone of warning. The way he looked at them sent a chill racing through Claire. "What are you doing here, Parker?" she managed to say, her voice steadier than she felt. "I could ask the same of you," he replied with a smirk, the glint in his eye betraying nothing. "Seems like you've been digging a little too deep into things you don't understand." Nate leaned in, defiance flashing in his eyes. "We're just looking for transparency, Parker. You come to our town with promises, but refuse to show us your hand." Claire felt a flicker of courage light a fire in her chest. "If you truly mean to help us, then we deserve to know everything about you, your ties, your intentions. Give us the truth." Parker arched an eyebrow, seemingly amused. "Truth is subjective," he replied, his tone deceptively casual. It only fueled Claire's conviction. "Not when lives are on the line, Parker. This isn't about just business. It's our home." Claire blinked back, rising frustration and worry. "What do you really plan for Maplewood? Do you even care what happens to us?" For a moment, the room fell silent as Parker studied her, his expression growing serious. "I want what's best for this town, Claire. But sometimes, the best path requires sacrifices." Nate scoffed, leaning forward with intensity. "Like selling our town's soul?" "Exactly," Parker sneered. "You think this is simple? Change is never simple, no matter how hard you fight against it." With every word that flowed from Parker's lips, Claire could feel the looming threat of a reality they didn't want to confront. But there was something about him, something they needed to uncover. "Let us hear it then," Claire urged, her voice steadying with newfound resilience. "What sacrifices are you proposing?" He leaned back, crossing his arms. "Investments. Projects that will open up jobs, tourism, and growth. They aren't just promises. They're assessments of potential. I need to ensure that when I invest, it delivers, Parker announced, his gaze piercing through Claire as if he could see every doubt and insecurity within her. It sounds great, Parker, but your vision sounds more like a takeover than a collaboration, Lisa shot back, anger igniting within her. Parker smirked, a flash of frustration surfacing. Fine, if you doubt me, look for evidence. But come back to me with more than just assumptions. In 3 days' time. If you seize this opportunity, you'll either witness the rebirth of Maplewood, or it'll perish. The weight of his ultimatum hung in the air as Parker turned to leave, but Claire felt compelled to call after him. You don't really care about us, do you? You're only here to fulfill some agenda. He paused momentarily, glancing over his shoulder. That's for you to decide. With that, he strolled out of the diner, leaving them enveloped in uncertainty and fear. The silence was deafening as the reality settled in. What do we do now? Claire asked, heart pounding, glancing at Nate and Lisa. We regroup, Lisa said decisively, determination firm in her voice. We need to dig deeper into Parker's connections. If he thinks he can play us, we have to find valuable information that reveals his true motives. I know people, contacts who've worked with him before, Nate added, the wheels of determination turning. If I can reach them, we'll see what we're truly dealing with. Claire felt the surge of anger intertwining with hope, the fire of a community that wouldn't be extinguished. Here, in this small diner, they could reclaim their narrative. They could fight together, not just against an outsider, but for the essence of Maplewood, their identity. I can talk to the others, Claire offered, excitement bubbling at the prospect of uniting her community once again. They need to know what we're doing. If we want a fighting chance, we have to stand together, arm in arm. With that, they forged their plan, each voice in the small diner adding to the growing resolve. Whatever lay ahead, they would find strength in unity. They were more than a town. They were a family, determined to protect their spirit as they left the diner that day. Claire felt the weight lift slightly off her shoulders. She knew challenges loomed, but they had ignited a fire within her heart, a fire that could shift the course of their fight in ways no one could anticipate. When the sun set over Maplewood, it would blaze brighter than before, illuminating hope in the face of adversity. And as they ventured into the future, Claire made a silent vow in her heart. They'd uncover the truth, whatever it took. The journey was only beginning, but she wouldn't walk it alone. Together, they'd fight for this future, for each other, and for the promise of love and community. Now, as you reach the end of this inspiring tale, let us channel that energy into action. You need to subscribe now to the channel, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like right now to feed the algorithm and show your support for incredible transformations like Claire's. Comment below and share your reactions. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video. Send it to at least 5 friends who need to see this story unfold. Let us spread the love and the passion for Maplewood together.